again, everyone, and welcome to another Inside Lowell Daily Pulse podcast. It is Monday, April 14th, 2025. We're kicking off a new day, kicking off a brand new week here on the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you as always from the WellPoint Studios here in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell. And today, we're going to talk a lot about the town of Tewksbury with a gentleman who, well, we've talked about the town of Tewksbury on numerous occasions.
I thought we were just talking about me.
On the Daily Pulse. Well, that too, because in many ways, he is one of the main topics in the town of Tewksbury. Certainly has been on the Daily Pulse here with our Tewksbury insider, 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 𝐏𝐿𝐵. We've talked an awful lot about town selectman Mark Kratman. Today, we're going to give you a chance to actually hear from Mark Kratman himself and give him an opportunity to expand on things that have been said or rebut things that have been said. So first of all, Selectman Kratman, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, coming down here to our home in downtown Lowell.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show. I just wanted to come on, talk a little bit about Tewksbury and talk about what's really happening in Tewksbury. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of different things that have been talked about. And it's always politically driven. And now that the election's over, let's talk about what's really going on in the community.
All right. And that's, I wanted to give you an opportunity because you have been the target of a lot of things said about you and things that are happening in the town.
Can't hit a moving target.
Well, we'll see if we can pin you down and get some answers here. We're going to start our conversation with Town Selectman Mark Kratman in a quick moment. First, let me just thank our Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both of those states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, Ray Booten is your man. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint is the only health plan offering health care benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thanks to Ray, thanks to WellPoint. We got some other sponsors that we'll thank, but we want to get right to it. So you had reached, I'll be quite honest with you, the most viewed and downloaded on our audio podcast, listen to podcast. When I combine all the numbers, I've been doing this now since Monday, January 6th, the last one with 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 𝐏𝐿𝐵, where she talked an awful lot about the election. We were doing our election preview, and there was a lot of talk about you. The most watched podcast, most listened to podcast that we have done, which to me was bizarre for a site called Inside Lowell.
Well, I would like to say that I was one of them.
You were.
But I wasn't one of the people that watched it.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, people sent it to me. People were trying to, did you see this? Did you see that? Did you see this? I get that all the time. Did you hear what somebody said? Did you hear something like this? And I always tell them the same thing. I don't have time for it. I really don't have time for the negativity of something talking about me. I was in the middle of working on the election, talking to residents, trying to do what I always do. Yeah, the nice thing about me running is nothing changes year after year after year because I'm at everything. So I'm at, senior breakfast. I'm at, the Boy Scouts installations. I'm at the kids, the Memorial Day Parade. I run that. I do the 4th of July. I'm the chair of the 9/11. I'm the president of the chamber. So I talk to the local businesses. I'm out and about all the time, talking to the community. So on election year, when a lot of politicians tend to only show up when it's election time and take their picture, and that's not me. I'm out every year at all the events. And I think that's why I'm successful in the community.
And I have heard from residents in the town who've watched those podcasts that you're the one guy on the Board of Selectmen, and the board changes from time to time, but you're the one constant that if they call with an issue, you will respond. I don't hear that about some of the others. So I thought that was fair to say. It's one of the things I did bring up with 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲. I'll also say, in fairness to her, I think if you get a chance, you should watch those podcasts and just make sure that everything that is said, that people say to you is said about you.
I saw a couple of them that I was laughing.
Okay, so you have seen them.
I've seen a couple of them, but I didn't watch the last one that you mentioned. I just, like I said, it happened I think a couple of weeks before the election.
Yes.
And I had already watched enough of them. I had my fill of the I Hate My Kratman show, and I just didn't want to watch anymore. I knew the theme. I didn't think anything was going to change in the last show.
Right.
You know?
So is there anything that has been said in those shows that you believe to be patently false? 100% not true.
I don't think that she's trying to say something that's false. I think she just doesn't know. And you know, like one of the things I was laughing, people were calling or texting me or sending, you know, she says you're a mile long and an inch deep. You don't do anything. Like, she has no idea. It's like I have a pair of sneakers that I currently wear that have been in the town longer than she has. So for her to be considered an insider, I find that incredible. If you don't know what's going on in the community and you're making your own observations and not going to it, like, she admittedly states to you that she's never had a conversation with me, but she knows everything about me. Like, how is that? How do you know everything about me if you've never even taken the time to have a conversation with me?
Well, people who watch, you've been serving. How many years have you been serving on the Board of Selectmen?
This is my 10th year. This is my 4th term serving.
All right. So if you follow meetings, events, or whatever, people will get a sense of who you are and then form their judgment off that. Agreed. It's different once you've had a chance to speak in person or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, but the funny thing is, it's like, you know, they'll say things like, you know, oh, he only does this because he's a, you know, selectman, anything like that. Well, then take into consideration why I did it for a decade before then. Like, they don't know that. They have no idea. You know, for 20 some odd years, I've been running the Patriotic Committee. So it's not that I show up to the Memorial Day Parade. It's not that I show up to the 4th of July. I organize and build the floats and put it together. You know, like, I call all the groups. I coordinate all the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the sports teams. I hire the Shriners that I bring in from Rhode Island and try to find bands to build in. And when those floats are going down 38, I'm usually the one who's scraping them down and painting them and putting them together and building them for Tewksbury Youth Football and putting those things together. When there's the 4th of July, like, I'm the one who's ordering the medals and cutting the watermelon for the watermelon eating contest and putting the thing. Isn't like I show up. I put weeks and months into preparation trying to run these things, and I've done it for. And it's not because I'm a selectman. I've been doing it for 20 years. So I did it for a good decade before I even was involved in politics. That's how I got drawn into politics. I was doing so much. I'm a member of the Elks. I'm a member of the Knights. I'm a member of the Lions. I go to, you know, we'll be doing, you know, cookouts for the kids or doing something for the Boy Scouts or doing a hoop shoot or doing something. And because I was doing so much, it's like I said, people came up to me and said, you know, we wish you would represent us. We wish you'd get involved in the thing. And at the time, my kids were little. I really wasn't that much interested into it, kind of like staying away from it. But little by little, I saw what was happening and I wanted to get involved because I thought I could make a change. You know, one thing I pride myself on is I listen to the residents. You know, I don't claim to be the smartest man in the world. I don't claim to know all the answers. But I think as a community, if we work together and we find the answers together, that's the best way. You know, if the residents want something and politicians don't listen to the people that put them in office, that's the problem. And I've never been that person. When the residents put me in, I tell them, I'm here to serve you. I'm your voice. You call me, I'm here to service the community with your voice.
All right. So you feel you've been unfairly portrayed as someone who's just showing up to events because you get votes there.
I think it's not. It's politics. It's some people don't like me because they can't control me, and they never will. That's the frustrating part. I'm not tied to any political party. I'm not tied to any group. I'm not tied to anyone. I'm tied to the residents of Tewksbury. So no one can say, you have to do this, you have to do that, you owe us this, you owe us that. I owe no one. I give to the community, and I don't take from anyone.
All right. So you said the word control, so I want to get into that because another criticism leveled, or I don't know if it's a criticism or an observation, because look, all select boards or city councils or school committees, there's always somebody, they all have their own little dynamic, but there's always somebody for whatever reason, be it experience, be it just their character, their personality, they kind of become one of the leaders on that board and on that government board. So you're one of the leaders and have been now on that Tewksbury board. Are you the quote unquote, are you the puppet master who's controlling a voting block of people who you direct them on how to vote? or you say this is how you're going to vote and they follow suit. Whatever the case may be.
Funny
Is that
thing
accurate?
No, it's so far from the truth. No, no one was claiming that when I was arguing and I was the minority vote and the majority vote. The majority of my time, I've been the minority vote, voting for certain things and not joining the crowd. And I've always got outvoted on a number of occasions. And I stood my ground and did it. No one was claiming that there was puppet masters then. But now, all of a sudden, people get inside there that see that think the same way I think. And it's not, it's the people that are serving. It's because they're community activists. They're people that are they're out and about that go and do the same thing that I do. So they're coaches, they're leaders, they're people that they don't hide from the public. So if we're all hearing the same message, I'm not running any puppet show. They're just hearing the residents and doing what the residents want. It's not something that I'm telling them to do. And if you look at the select board member meetings, we've had split votes on multiple events. I voted one way. My board members have voted against me numerous times in just the last couple of months. And for somebody to say, I'm controlling everyone, I find that amazing.
Are you recruiting candidates who think like you and would vote like you to seek seats? Conversely, are you telling them not to run? In the last election, you had said you were not running, and somebody had pulled paperwork and then got out of the race. I think a couple of people ended up dropping out. Are you orchestrating any of that?
No, I think what happened was there was new people that moved to the community. And one candidate that I actually spoke to thought that the only open seat was the select board seat. It was new in the community. And I'm like, there's the housing board, there's this board, there's the planning board. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know all that, because if you read the newspaper, they just kind of talked about the select board. And I'm like, there's so many. We've had elections where no one has run for any of the seats, and then we've had to fill people in. Or we've had write-in candidates. Just last year, we had write-in candidates for the Board of Health. Nobody filled out the papers, and then all of a sudden we had to do write-in candidates, and then we had 4 write-in candidates. It made no sense. All you had to do was get 50 signatures, and you were on the ballot. And it's just like everybody waited, thinking somebody else was going to jump in. Each year that I've run, groups have got someone to run against me. I welcome them. Please do so. I love a challenge. Because I go out and talk to the residents. You know what? I don't have to listen to any political party. I don't have to have anybody tell me what to do. I must do this, or you're not going to have my backing. If you tell me that, I'm like, well, good, bye-bye. I don't need it. I like being my own person.
All right. Let's talk about the recent election. You announced towards the end of a meeting that, and we reported it here on InsideLowell, that you would not be seeking re-election for what you called health reasons. This was while you had an ongoing court case going on, and it was getting to the point where the court case was going to be heard or resolved in some way, shape, or form. That court case was resolved, and then you announced that you were going to seek re-election. Was that decision to not run and then ultimately to seek re-election, was that based on that legal case?
It wasn't based on the legal case. It was based on distraction from the community. We want to talk about my legal case. I'll gladly talk about it. I'm responsible. That's the one thing that I've tried to tell people. Like, I made an error. It's not my fault. None of that stuff. I screwed up. I owned up. I told them things. I made an error. So poor judgment. I made a mistake. I apologized. I'm doing my penance for it. And I can't change the past. I can only move forward. So I apologized to the community. I said, listen, I'm human. I made a mistake. I didn't mean to do this. And I've moved on. And it's just like, I can't change something that, like I said, I wish I could go back and make that decision go away, but I didn't. And now I'm paying for it. Okay. But since then, like I said, I've gone on, and I've never stopped working in the community. So it's just like, how could I make it up to the community, but better than to serve and give back to the community?
But you did cite at that meeting, you said you have some health issues that you are dealing with.
And the health issues are legitimate, which that I heard on this show once again, that that I don't have health issues, things like that. Once again, naive people that have, how somebody can come on a show and tell somebody that I didn't know she was a medical professional, but like, I mean, not only did I have like a medical issue, it was like I fell and was in a coma, and I was in a coma for 4 days. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't like to use it, because it's honestly, it shouldn't be part of politics. It's something that happened to me personally, but I fell, banged my head. I was in a hospital for a couple of weeks, but I was in a coma for 4 days. Woke up, felt like I was paralyzed. I'm still going through it.
Was this in recent months? Or?
This was a year and a half ago.
Year and a half.
Yeah, so it's just it happened not this November, but the November before that. And I'm still going through treatment. Like I go to the 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 Concussion Center, and I go for rehab, and I go things in. And it's been, I mean, I was walking with a walker originally. Then I was walking with a cane. I still have difficulty with brightness and light and things like that. I'm recovering from it, but am I fully recovered? No, I'm still dealing with it. It's still causing me problems, and I get tired. So that was something that was taken into consideration. Distraction to my town. I didn't think that was fair. I was trying to push away from that. And I thought there was a couple of candidates that might be running that would step up, that would have the best interests of the residents in view. And then when I saw some of the candidates talking about what they wanted to back, it was against some of the thoughts that I had. And I said, I'm not dedicating 20 years of my life to doing something for this community, to have somebody come in and all of a sudden change the fabric of our community with a couple of votes. So I decided I'm going to step back in.
Prior to the night where you announced you wouldn't be seeking re-election because of those health issues, and in fairness to you, you didn't just leave the door open that you would return to public life at some point. I mean, you kicked it open, and everybody pretty much figured you were going to be seeking office again once either the health issues, or as some folks speculated, the court case were settled. But did those health issues that you just described, did they at any point cause you to consider stepping down from the board?
Yeah, the only thing that was the timing for everything. Like a lot of the meetings when it first happened, like, I was doing Zoom meetings. It was during COVID was happening, and we were still doing Zoom meetings. So I was, instead of having to go down to town hall, we were doing some of the meetings we were doing online when this happened. So that was taken into consideration where, okay, you know what, can I rest up? Can I get my energy to do this? Can I continue doing my job and, get through this? It was challenging. It was very challenging. I sleep more than I ever have because of what happened, and I'm trying to build up my energy. It's when you get an injury like that, it's not something that, it's not like a physical injury. Like I damaged the soft part of my brain. It controlled my motor functions, sight, taste, motor skills and things like that. I've gone through rehab for almost a year and a half now. I'm still continue doing it, and I'm going through it. And I'm not 25 years old anymore. I'm 61. So when you're recovering from a major injury, it's not something like you bounce back and you're right back at it. But like I said, I've done what I consider, I'm doing what I need to do for myself. And I'm also, I feel like I have more energy than most of the candidates to do most of the events anyway. So,
We're chatting with Mark Kratman, selectman for the town of Tewksbury, a frequent subject of our discussions here on the Daily Pulse. Today, we're chatting with him in person. We're going to get back to the conversation in a quick moment. Just let me thank my InsideLowell Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. You can find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. And a reminder, the open enrollment period for those insured under the state GIC is ongoing now. You have until May 1st. So if you're not happy with your health plan, take a look at WellPoint and make the switch to WellPoint. Thank you as well to our friends at Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell and southern New Hampshire. Since 1925, the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in Greater Lowell through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Thank you as well to Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on since 1982 to insure its most valued assets. And last but certainly not least, by the Massachusetts Pirates, bringing all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Sanger Center. Pirates got their first win of the season last Saturday night at the Sanger Center. Great game. It ended on a field goal as time expired. And by the way, they knocked out a team that was previously undefeated before coming to Lowell to face the Pirates. So head on out, catch a game. It's an awful lot of fun. We return to our conversation with Tewksbury Town Selectman Mark Kratman. All right, you mentioned your legal issues, and you said you admitted you made bad decisions. Okay, there were three times you have been charged with operating under the influence.
Yeah, and the other ones were 30-something years old.
Okay.
And one of them was not even on. The way it was written in the newspapers is that like I was convicted of all these different things, and some of them would continue without a finding, and then some of them wasn't even like a conviction. That's how when I went in, one of them they threw out of what it was when they did the case. So it was 30-something years ago when I was younger.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't even had as much as a parking ticket in 25 years prior to this.
So one in 1996, one in 2002, and the most recent one was 2019. That's the one that dragged out almost 6 years because of COVID disruptions at first, and then continuing legal actions there. The 3 times OUI, if you're convicted or plead guilty, it's mandatory jail time.
Yeah.
And you did plead on the 2019 case, correct? But there was a dispute as to the first case, which you highlighted, that said it said that there's some paperwork wasn't there, so it wasn't clear what the finding was. Yeah. Okay. The second case, though, it was a charge of second offense, right? And you did plead guilty to that one?
That was also, and when they brought that one up, it said first offense on the second offense. So that confused the courts as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you admitted you've made mistakes and you made bad decisions. Yeah. Should you have stepped down?
No.
Because of those bad decisions?
No, I don't think so. If I think I should have stepped down, I would have stepped down. I understand I made a mistake. I understand what I did was wrong. I haven't had a drink since then. I've totally changed it. So you can't live in the past and just say, you know what? It's like I did something wrong, so I have no value to the community. You know, I give so much to the community, volunteer, and do so much for the community. What good would it be to step down and do nothing and just sit back and have others go in? There's cliques of people that are in our community that are like 2 political parties, and they all work together. And you know, if I was an elected official, it wouldn't have been in the newspaper. It wouldn't have been in things. I was on the front page of every newspaper you can imagine, attacking all over me. And wholeheartedly, the community rallied around me and said, we support you, Mark. We understand you made a mistake. You owned up to it. And now you're moving forward. I owe it to the residents to give them something back because they supported me.
Right. So in 1996 and the 2002 instances, you were not in public office.
No.
So in 2019, you were. You've since run for re-election, was it 3 times or 2 times? Twice.
And I topped the tickets both times.
Okay. So as you state, you've had public support.
Yes.
That said, and when we kind of dealt with this to some degree in Lowell when there was a criminal case involving a city councilor over the last couple of years, codes of conduct. Does the Tewksbury Board of Selectmen have a code of conduct? And if so, does it have something that deals with operating under the influence?
I mean, no, it doesn't have anything obviously to do with under the influence. I mean, we have ethical, we have other codes of conduct that you go in and you take ethics training and things like that. But there's nothing that stops you from having. I mean, we look at Marty Walsh. You know, you're talking about the mayor of Boston who got convicted of, DUI and totally changed his life around. Mayor of Boston was working for the president, doing all kinds of amazing things and changed his life around. I would like to be someone who shows what you can be when you make mistakes. You make a mistake, own up to it. Don't say, it's not my fault. It's not this. It's not that. I owned up to it. I made a mistake. I'm stepping up. And what I'm going to do is I'll never make that mistake again. I'll move forward. I'll get back to the community. And that's what I'm about.
And that was the final question I wanted to ask on this. And you addressed it briefly, but you know, you said you haven't had a drink since 2019. Have you made changes in your life? That was my question. Have you made changes in your life so that you do not end up in the same situation?
I just stopped drinking. That was it. Once that happened, it happened on a Veterans Day. I was at a Veterans Day event, and I was running the Veterans Day, and I went with a bunch of veterans, and that's where it came. That's where it happened. And I just said, you know what? I don't need alcohol in my life. I have a wonderful life. I have everything's serving me well in the community. And I don't walk anywhere around the town without somebody coming and shaking my hand, saying hello to me and saying thank you for doing what you do for the community. I don't need anything. I'm not shy. I'm not that social awkward person that has to go out to a bar to have a couple of drinks to fit in. So I don't need that. So I just removed that part of my life. That's all.
Do you wish you had made that decision prior to 2019?
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
brushes?
there's not a day that goes by that I wish that I didn't make. Who doesn't make mistakes and just say, God, I wish I could go back to that day and make it go away, or not make that mistake and made better choices. And unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't live in the past. I move in the future, and that's what I'm about.
All right. What do you do for work? When you were going through your your schedule of the things that you do with the town, is a chairman of the Chamber of Tewksbury Wilmington Chamber of Commerce. Or you mentioned a bunch of other things you do: the parades, whatnot, slicing watermelon, etc. If you have to, what do you do for work, and how the hell do you find the time?
Well, I work for Mass DOT, so I work for the Highway Division, and I've always worked for that. I've been there for 27 years, and all the other stuff we do is on the weekends and on the nights and all the other events that we're doing, the things where we're doing chamber events or things like that. I've been there. I'm getting close to retirement, and so I've been there for, I got a couple of years away from retirement, and and pretty soon I'm going to have all my time free.
Yeah, I was going to say you'll have all sorts of time to give to events.
So what it is, and so that's one of the things that was a lot of things that I took into consideration when I was doing things. Like prior to that, I used to work 2 full-time jobs. So for 27 years, I worked 2 full-time jobs. I used to work for the state, and then I also worked for Kelly's down in Revere Beach. So I worked 87 hours a week. And I did that when my kids were little and, helped to pay and get all the, school work and all the other stuff I did. And just to make a better life. And then I I left Kelly's. And now all of a sudden I had all this energy. I'm used to working, another 47 hours. And so that's when I'm like, you know what, I'll volunteer on this, I'll volunteer on that, I'll do these other events. And like I said, most of the events that happen are on the holidays. So for the last 20 years, I haven't left the town of Tewksbury on Memorial Day, 4th of July, Veterans Day, 9/11. And it's like I've been pretty much committed to serve the community on most of the major holidays, which my family has suffered for on a lot of the different things, because when everybody's going to the lake, I'm organizing and putting the parade together and doing those things.
You mentioned close to retiring. How close?
A couple of years.
All right. You're going to be done working for the state after that? There's speculation that you are eyeing a state representative seat. The Tewksbury
only
seat.
In the dreams of somebody on here. Like I said, I ran for state representative, and I topped the ticket in Tewksbury. The other woman topped the ticket in Wilmington. Judy O'Connell. Neither one of us won. The person that came in second to me in Tewksbury and third to her in Wilmington ended up being the state rep, because we split the vote so much. But I ran because I thought that we needed more leadership. We needed someone that would fight for the people up the State House. If you see what happens up the State House, when you have a representative, it's hard to get things done. If you're not part of that political party, and if you don't do everything that the leadership tells you to do, then you don't get grants. You don't get it. The system is broken. It really is. It's just, the parties just are horrible, because, they're all about, their political agenda. And it's like, and it's got to the point that you forgot what you're there for. You got elected to be the representative of the people. And when you start doing what the party wants rather than what your constituents want, that's why we're in the mess we're in right now.
You ran, you mentioned the race where you ran as in the Democratic primary, correct? The race that was ultimately won by Dave Robertson when Jim Maselli decided to finally hang up. So you have no plans to run again?
I do not.
As a Democrat or as a Republican?
Oh my God.
Despite what I think you're accurately describing as the situation on Beacon Hill, but that wouldn't inspire you enough to go try to make change one more time?
Like I said, every time I've done something, it's usually the residents come up to me and are like, Mark, we need help. We need this. We need that. And one of those considerations when I said I wasn't going to run, I really wasn't going to run. You know, multiple times I've actually said I wasn't going to run. And then all of a sudden I got, either a letter from 200 seniors that sign a letter saying, please do this. We need you. Or my phone rings off the hook. My phone rings all day long of people calling saying, Mark, I got a problem with this. We get the bathrooms down at the porta potties are full. The little minor things, but it's big to other people. My water bill wasn't correct, or, the trash wasn't picked up, or, there's noise from a local business and they're not paying attention to me. Dumpsters are being picked up too early in the morning. Trucks are driving by my house, hitting the potholes and waking me up in the middle of the night. It's all kinds of little constituent problems, which I love taking those calls because you can fix those. And I enjoy taking calls from constituents. I like talking to people. It's like, I never avoid the public. I'm always out. And when I go to Market Basket, I always joke that I have to go down the bread aisle first and the frozen last. Because if I went down the frozen, all the ice cream would be melted by the time I got out of the store. If I go in, I talk to 100 people when I'm in the grocery store. If I go to the coffee shop, I plan on sitting there for an hour, and talking to people as they come up. It's just, I went just the other night, I went to the installation offices at the Elks Club. Just went down, congratulated things. I go to Lions Club. I remember all these different groups, and I volunteer and do things for the community.
So you've said in the past that you're not going to run for office, and you've changed your mind. You're sure you're not changing your mind about state rep?
You know what? At this time, I have no intention of running.
That's what I want to hear. It leaves the door open.
No, it's just like you said. I never say no to, you never know what opportunities going to be or what may happen. If somebody went and did something that would usually when I run, it's when somebody drags me back in. They anger me to the point that it's like, you're not doing right by our community, and it frustrates me. If there was some new people that stepped up and said, I'm going to do this, and I thought and I believed in what they were doing, and they had wholeheartedly had the best interest of the community, I would love to be able to go to the lake for Memorial Day. I'd love to go away for the 4th of July. It'd be nice to go on a trip every now and then. I go on very few vacations. I'm always, when I have time, I'm always volunteering in the community. And we need more people to step up and do these type of things. So, yeah, if there's more, when you mention, are you recruiting people? I recruit people all the time. Please get up and get involved in your community. But the number one thing that I want to hear from you is that this group told me I listened to your show. And one of the things she was talking about was that I was a puppet master. But then she talked about how she was going to support the other candidates. And the reason she was going to support the other candidates, well, he wouldn't know what he was doing, but he can be told what to do. Wait a minute. You were just calling me a puppet master, but you're going to support somebody that can be told what to do. Do you hear yourself when you're having these conversations? I shake my head all the time. And like I said, it's some of the things that are being said, it's because it's the residents don't want me. Well, if the residents don't want me, why do I keep topping the ticket? If the residents don't, if you went around and you walked around the community with me, I could walk into 100 stores and I guarantee you 20 people are going to come up, shake my hand, hug me, or tell me, thank you so much for what you're doing. That's all I need from the community. I don't need to listen to the 1% of the political parties or the cliques that get together and they have their agenda. And I tell them all the time, I don't care. I simply don't care. You can have your agenda. It doesn't make a difference to me because it's not the best interest of the residents. So you're not going to attack me. You're not going to put your news stories together. You're not going to attack me on blogs and think that I care. You could write them all day long. My skin is 7 feet deep. I don't care what you have to say. Attack me, attack me, attack me. It doesn't make a difference, because when I go to bed at night, I sleep very well knowing that I'm doing the best for the residents. And that's all that matters.
All right. One of the hot button issues in town, perhaps the hot button issue, MBTA communities. And are you opposed?
Oh my God, am I opposed?
100%. That's been one of the.
It's the worst. It's like, once again, here we are. You have two political parties fighting. So nationally, we got the Republicans running everything and Democrats running everything at state level. And they're both pointing the finger at each other, how both of them are the evil parties and how they don't listen. And they're not doing what's best for the parties. And it just gets to a point where people do something too far. And that's when people just get tired of it. You know, we have major needs in my community. You know, we have high water and sewer bills. We have infrastructure needs. I don't have sidewalks down the length of 38 where, you know, and I've been asking for them for years. I've been asking my delegation for different funds. I called them in. Every year they come in, especially near election time. They show up and what can we do? What can we do? And I bite my tongue sometimes, and I would like to say, which I'll say right now, you know, I wish you'd give me something that I've asked for the last 10 years, because these are the things that we need. We need sidewalks. We need roadway improvements. We need help with our water infrastructure. We need things that we send tax dollars to the state. We expect you to govern and spend our tax dollars in the best way possible and send them back to the communities, provide services. When you start threatening that we're going to send you tax dollars and you're not going to send any back, that's not governing. That's dictatorship. It's horrible. And I asked the question about this MBTA communities. If you went out to 177 communities or whatever it may be that have these, and you asked the same question to every single one of these communities, if the state didn't mandate this, would you even consider doing this? Every single one of them would be like, no, this is horrible. And the fact that they're building it with the story that we're going to do it because we're near rapid transit. We got rapid transit around here. I got a bus that drives up and down 38. So if you were to zone 1,234 units, multifamily units, now they say you only have to zone them. You don't have to build them. What a bunch of malarkey that is. There's no way that if you're going to zone it, they want them built. They want more housing, plain and simple.
And somebody will build them.
Yeah, there's too much money in it. So if you zone by right, so you're giving up some of your rights to say, no, this isn't what we want. So you have to zone it by right. And then not only do we have to do it, Wilmington has to do it as well. So we have a train station that was built in the 1900s that has no escalators, no elevators, no covering from the elements. And you're going to zone 1,200 and something units in Wilmington. And then within a half mile or a mile, I'm not sure, maybe 3/4 of a mile, you're going to put another 1,200 zone that. So in multifamily units, so if you get multifamily units, if they're built, 2 cars per household, so you get 1,200, 2,400 vehicles and 4,800 vehicles trying to get out of 38. And the reasoning behind it is because we got rapid transit. That's good. You see, 4,800 people hopping on the bus to get to, it's such a poor plan. Like if they really, where's the most expensive places to build? Near the city. Where are they centering this around? Surrounding the city, because they want people to live outside the city, in the suburbs, but be able to get into the city to provide services and to be able to provide help. Well, if you're going to do this, why didn't you do it statewide? Like, where's the most inexpensive to build? Western Mass. So if you really wanted to build something and make it work, why didn't you put a plan together to build new infrastructure to bring rapid transit out to Western Mass? And then everybody can build a house out there for $300,000, $400,000, where everything costs $900,000 around here, or $1 million in Malden. It's like the cost is so much substantially less, and then you can hit all those other people. It should be, if you want to build and you're going to make a mandate, it should be statewide. It shouldn't be because you got a bus that drives through your community every now and then. It's a horrible plan.
You're sounding like a state rep candidate as much as a selectman.
I can't fix their problems.
All right. So you've adequately laid out the problem. A lot of folks feel the way you do.
No, I haven't scratched the surface of the problem.
But you also highlighted the fact that the governor is threatening to withhold funding. There's a legal battle going on with the town of Milton and eventually others. And by the way, the courts have not ruled in Milton's favor yet. So as somebody who's responsible for making this decision for the town of Tewksbury, is it in the town's best interest to keep fighting this and risk the funding
will need? What do you teach your children? When somebody's doing something wrong to you, do you cave and give in because they're the bully? Or do you stand up for yourself and do you fight for what's right? This thing is not something that's good for our community. I'm not going to cave in and say, just because, I mean, they have to wake up and smell the coffee that they are the elected officials. You got put there by the people that elected you. If you go out and they're all running for re-election, so I guarantee you're going to hear a different story in the next 6 months to 9 months when all of a sudden everyone's knocking on the door saying, I need your vote again. When you're telling them we're mandating you to do something. I mean, now all of a sudden we have Mr. 𝐃𝐚𝐢𝐥𝐲 who's running, and he was supposedly under Charlie Baker. He was an architect of this MBTA law they're putting in. But when he puts that on Twitter, he never meant it to be a mandate. It was supposed to be a tool, and that the government is overstepping their boundary. So this is the guy that supposedly created. So now he's saying this. You don't think the governor is going to come back and say, you threw this in my lap or whatever it is? It's going to go. We need housing. And if you look at Tewksbury, we have built housing nonstop. And this is the most frustrating thing about it. In the last 10 years, they took in no consideration of what you've done in your community. So if you built and built and built in your community, yeah, well, good for you. I want more. It's like, so if you didn't do anything, like if we hadn't done anything in 10, 15 years and we're like not doing anything, but we get apartment buildings going up all over the place. If there's an open lawn in Tewksbury, somebody wants to come there because we've made investments in our community. We put a new high school. We get a beautiful library. We get an elementary school. You know, we get a police department, fire department. We've made all kinds of investments in the community. And now everybody wants to come there because it's a great place to raise your family. I don't blame them. That's why I went there as well. But now all of a sudden to mandate that you have to build something, and right where they're talking about mandating, and last year we had a water break that shut down the town, the whole town. It was such a break that it was like everybody's water pressure was done. And it was literally a couple of 100 yards from where this new development they want to put in. And you're going to put 1,200 units in? And who's paying for that water services? The state doesn't. The state, I love, says that the developer is only limited to what the developer has to pay for. But the state doesn't have any money to give you to do any infrastructure improvements, but the town doesn't have to do it. So if you're going to build 1,200 units, 2,400 vehicles, you're going to need water, you're going to need infrastructure, you're going to need... Who's paying for it? If the state's not, out of 170 communities, where's Tewksbury going to be on that list of getting funding? We're going to be 150? It's like it's going to go to the big cities and towns. It's going to be the people that have the leadership of the high-ranking political people that always get the money. It's going to go to Lowell. It's going to go to Lawrence. It's going to go to Springfield. It's going to go to Worcester. It's going to go to the big cities and towns. We'll be over there and say, oh, is there any crumbs left for us? I can't get sidewalks in my community, and I'm thinking that they're going to come in and they're going to widen these roadways and be able to deal with 4,800 vehicles and deal with the water infrastructure we need. Hiring, like we spent $100 million on a new elementary school. You put this place in there. Do I need another one? Like I said, everyone says our schools don't need it. How do you know how many kids are going to go in there? I'd love to see the crystal ball that these people have that say what's going to happen, because their planning is just poor.
So you're willing to risk a cutoff of funding if the governor is actually going to go through with it and is allowed to, and also the illegal battle. You're willing to risk
I'm willing to stand up for the residents, because the residents, it wasn't like it was even I'm not making this decision. We went to town meeting. The residents showed up and voted on this. Overwhelmingly, They said they didn't stand and raise their hand and say, yeah. They all stood up and went, no. 80-something% of the residents showed up to that meeting, which is a very, that's 80% of the people that voted at that meeting stood up and said no. They came to that meeting to have their voice heard. I'm not going to be the politician that said, well, you gave your opinion, but I'm going to do something totally different. That's sorry. I'm going to side with the residents. That's what they want. They don't want to turn their town into a city. When did all of a sudden did the state become these genius developers? I was like, what is their expertise on? I don't think the people, I don't remember the governor ever stepping 1 foot in Tewksbury. And all these people that are making decisions about what's best for our community, I've never seen them walk in our community and make one decision of what's best for our community. So they're telling 177 communities, you have to do this. And how do they know what's best to override, your select board, your planning board, your zoning, all the different things that we put into place? Like, who are you to come in and say, we know better than you? It's asinine is what it is.
That's the common theme about it. And I've heard about it. I think a gentleman from the Greater Lowell Regional Technical High School committee sat in that seat, and the governor's plans to institute a lottery. He said, I'm voting no. And and he's hoping the rest of his board says, we're going to fight her on it. So I can admire that, but as long as you're willing to take the risks and the residents of the town, do you think the residents of Tewksbury adequately understand the risks and how damaging it might be if funding is cut off, if the governor follows through with her threat?
But does the governor realize how damaging it could be if we send out, didn't we have something back in like 1776 or something when all of a sudden somebody decided to not tax without representation? So I think that's sort of like we got a little history lesson that might happen. You're gonna take our taxes and you're going to tell us that you're going to get nothing back. How has that ever worked out in history?
That nowadays a good chunk of the media would call those people back in 1776 insurrectionists. Right? Some
of the people that have sat at this table and other people that have been on here, I think if they were in charge, we'd still be England. So don't give up your rights. This is the land of the free for a reason. We listen to the residents. You're not elected to make decisions. Like, I'm not smarter than my whole community. My job is to listen. I got elected to listen to the residents. I'm supposed to be their voice. If 80% of them come and say, I want this, who would be the fool to say, you know what, I know you really don't want this, but I'm going to do this anyway. And that's what our state delegation is doing. It's like Wilmington voted it down. Drake had voted it down. Tewksbury voted it down. It's just, why are they voting it down? I'll gladly, if somebody came up and I heard the joke that, I banged my hand on the table and told the governor to come up here. Yeah, because guess what? She got elected. Everybody got elected. We're the constituents. I vote as well. If you're doing something that's not good for my community, and you're not taking, she's not going to come there. All right. So you're going to tell me what's going to be best for my community and not step 1 foot into my community. Come up and have an open discussion. If you can come and explain to me why I should put 1,200 units and how I'm going to deal with 4,800 vehicles and where everybody's going to be standing on a platform from the 1900s with waiting for a train to get into wherever you need to do. It's like, we didn't even have a bus that drives through Tewksbury that would get you into the city of Boston before 10 o'clock in the morning. So does that make sense to you that you were going to do it? I talked to the LRTA and we've worked with that. Now they have put it, just recently, they put an earlier bus on because me walking around, talking to residents, talking to people that we built all of this new housing. We built housing all over the place. When we talk about, we do a thing with Robert Hayes from the library and me being the president of the chamber. We come in and we talk with the residents and we welcome the new residents. So we did one a couple of years ago, which usually every 2 years, and you have like 150 new residents come in. And I always say, why'd you move here? Where'd you come from? And what drew you here? I live down in the city. I grew up in Medford. I hate the hustle and bustle, and I wanted to get a small town feeling. I wanted a place where my kids could go out and play. I want some grass. I want some land. I want something that I can call my own and it's affordable and I'm not pushed out of my thing. So now everybody's moving up here to get that feeling, and I'm going to change it into the city. And that's what they're really doing. They're trying to mandate that you grow at a rate that you do not want to, that you must bring all these people, and they're not giving you any money for the services, any money for infrastructure. And this is a great idea, and I should say yes, because you're threatening that you're not going to give me my tax dollars back. I'll fight that fight all day long.
It's a certain populism there that I have to admit I admire. One more thing before we wrap up, because we have gone pretty long here.
Yeah.
You'll come back sometime? Yeah. All right, because I want to talk more about these issues. I don't
shy away from anybody. Okay. If somebody wants to talk to me, I'm always there.
Maybe I'll get you and Joe Marie in the same time.
That would be an interesting
the debate that wasn't had when.
And this is one of the things that they do. You know, when you talk about the debates, there's a political clique of people in the community, and they control the local newspapers and they control the certain things. So when they were having that debate, they were having it at the same time. They picked a date. They didn't ask me, are you available? Who has a debate that doesn't reach out to the candidates and say, can you make this date, or can you do this, or can you do that? They selected a date. They knew I had another something else that was on my calendar. They selected it, and I said, you didn't even ask me. What about we do it? There was two different candidates night. There was one that was for planning board, one was for select board. And I said, can you swap nights? Put me on Wednesday, put them on Thursday, and I'll gladly come down. No, we won't do it. They did it on purpose so that it made it inconvenient for me. And I said to them, honestly, nobody even pays attention. They don't read your paper. No one really cares. You can do what you want. It really didn't make much of a difference. I didn't go to the debate, and I topped the ticket. So,
having scheduled maybe 100 debates at this point through my years, I understand it's very difficult to get everybody to agree on a date, but you try to.
Have you ever done one where you didn't ask the candidates if they were available on that day?
No, I always managed to find a common.
That's what they did. So, and then they said, oh, you didn't come, and I was like, no, I'm not. You're not telling me what to do. That's what it came down to.
All right. Before I let you go, the hospital. A lot of folks are pointing to Tewksbury State Hospital, which is in your town, and saying that should become a major part of the solution to the state's mental health crisis. A lot of politicians here in Lowell are pointing to that hospital, saying there's land there, there's the services are, you already have everything you need there. That should be a big part of it.
Yeah, and
your thoughts?
Yeah, I've talked to many of the politicians in Lowell because a lot of them are my friends, and I've had discussions with them, and I tell them they're out of their mind. Because Tewksbury State Hospital, I love the services. Like everyone says, you constantly attack them. I'm not attacking them. I'm just tired of paying for it. They don't provide their own police service. They have security guards up there, but they have limited. So it's a state agency. It's a state facility. When somebody gets called and has to go to the hospital or go to the doctors, if you have all those, patients up there and all those services that the state are sending there, wouldn't you have your own ambulance? Wouldn't you have your own security? Wouldn't you be able to handle the influx of what it is? But when you go up there, you walk in any room, if anything happens, you call Tewksbury Fire, you call Tewksbury Police. This is where you call. So we're their private, they get to run their services, and I get to send my fire trucks and my ambulances there all of the time. They send people, when people are running off the grounds that are sent there, a lot of times it's because they jump out of the ambulance. They hop in the ambulance, they figure that's a good way for them to get out. So now I have my fire workers up there that ride the ambulance trying to wrestle somebody into an ambulance that, we don't know what they're incarcerated for. We have no idea why they were sent there. A lot of it is mental health. A lot of it is drug abuse. A lot of them is sexual offenses. And so they have a lot of different things that are going on up there, and the security up there is really lapsed. And I'm not trying to stop what they're doing. I don't think it's fair that the residents of Tewksbury should pay for it. And that's what's happening. Each year we've had to send services there. I mean, they have a Tewksbury cemetery that they don't maintain. We took money out of our own funding to try to do some work to clean it up. That's disgraceful that they buried people in a cemetery and the state doesn't take care of it. I mean, I know Jill Marie's on the board of directors, so when she's talking about that, maybe she can answer why she thinks it's okay that the residents of Tewksbury are subsidizing this Tewksbury State Hospital. It's not that I'm against what their services are providing. I fight for, what are you doing for security? Every entrance and exit of that place is near a sensitive area in my town. I got Livingston Street that I send all the kids all the playgrounds are down there. So all the kids are playing. We get little kids that are down there. I got school vacation coming. All the kids are going to be down there. They're going to be enjoying it. I got Tewksbury Library at the other exit. So they're going to be right out there. So everybody's going to be sending their kids, going in, studying at Tewksbury Library. And then at the other exit, I got Tewksbury Senior Center. So in a baseball field right there. So if somebody runs off that grounds or does something, and they have zero security, they're not checking people coming in and out. And I've asked for security measures, and every time they tell me, yes, we understand, we want more funding, we want more of this, we're going to do a safety audit, we're going to give it to you within 6 months. I always fight to get it. And then I said, well, is the state funding this? And they always say no. So if they're not funding it, that means I have to pick up that bill with the Tewksbury taxpayers to send people up there.
So if, as a part of the solution to the mental health issue, the state were to expand Tewksbury, but also provide the necessary security, rest of the services that it needs, would you be in favor if that was part of the proposal? They
haven't shown. Once again, the state doesn't seem to be a very good planner when they're putting some of these things together. And unless, this has been going on not for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. This has been going on for a long time. And the fact that they're sending more and more people there and providing less and less security and less services. Now, Joe Marie will say, a lot of these other people that are up there, they're vendors that are on those grounds that are put there that's not part of the Tewksbury State Hospital. But I've sat down with the board of directors and sat with them when they said, who's responsible for security for these places? And they say, we are. I'm like, okay, so you're responsible to meet with these people and do it. Is that happening? No. So there's a disconnect. So there's a group here, there's a group here, there's a group here. And if something happens, the first place that they call is Tewksbury Fire and Tewksbury Police. So now I'm sending my services up there. And then they want me to grow the town by 1,200. It's like, where does all the money keep coming from? Like, how am I supposed to justify this to the residents? We fought with them to get funding. This year, we're getting $50,000, supposedly they're going to send us, that we're going to get. Now, numerous years, we've asked for the same thing because us fighting, saying we want reimbursement for the services that we're providing. It's not cheap for us to send our firefighters, our police constantly to this place without getting reimbursed. We've asked for reimbursement. We put in $50,000. They cut it to $25,000. Then we get $25,000, and then the governor vetoes it off the budget. Then we have to fight. We get it back. It's like over the last 20 years, I don't even know how much money we're owed, but that money's never coming back to us. They're saying, oh, this year we're going to give you $50,000. Well, what about the money that I've spent over the last 20 years sending people there? And so when you look at the taxes and why we need these services, it's like, am I in favor of it growing, knowing that they haven't yet done any of the services? Absolutely not. I have zero faith that they would, if they were to grow this agency and put more and more people up there, that they'd provide the service, because they've shown that their unwillingness to do so. And a lot of times they say, we're going to cut Tewksbury State Hospital. We're going to cut, and they go, we're going to cut beds. We're going to cut beds. And my thing is, go right ahead. It's like, most of the people that work there are from out of town. And so, yes, we'll get some taxes from certain things, but it's a state agency. So we're not getting the funding from that. It's costing us money to provide services for it. So when you threaten me that you're going to shut it down, and I've had other people, if they shut it down, they turn it all into housing. I'm like, listen, these are threats all over the place. It's like, you better do this or else. And I'm like, listen, I'm not falling for these threats. It's like, I'm not naive. It's like, you need these services more than we do. and you're not willing to provide the services. So when I'm up there and I'm fighting for the residents' rights, I don't care if somebody says, oh, he's calling people inmates and things like that. Well, a lot of people are sent there from the courts and they're running off the grounds. Somebody punched one of the guards in the face and ran off the ground. It was a sexual offender from another community that punched somebody in the face. It ended up in the newspaper. So, yeah, so that person ran off the ground and ran toward the schoolyard. Am I going to say something? Absolutely I am.
All right. We're going to end it right there. A lot to say. Would love to have you back at some point, and I'd love to set up a show with both you and Jo Marie.
Anytime she wants to have a conversation with me, you know where to find me.
And I bet we could probably find a lot of common ground, believe it or
Well,
not.
it'd be nice to actually introduce myself to her, because every time I walk in a room, she walks in and she goes out the other door. So it isn't like she's made an attempt to even ask me what my thoughts are or what my agenda is or why I'm doing. She has she knows everything about me, but yet she's never, ever asked me, like, is this true?
All right. I'm going to work on setting up the date. Mark Kratman, Selectman for the town of Tewksbury, thank you so much for joining us here. Lots of stuff we covered. Appreciate it very much.
Not a problem. Always welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you to Mark for joining us here as well in the WellPoint studios. Well, there you go. Let's see if Mark can get even more viewers onto our podcast than what we've already had. But it's always good to talk about Lowell and the world around it, especially when that world is right on our town line, our city line as well. So thanks to Mark for joining us. Thank you for joining us as well. Later on this week on the Daily Pulse, we'll have former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras here on Wednesday, Lowell School Superintendent Liam Skinner on Thursday, and we'll have Batch and the Hyphen, Mike Bacigalupo, Michaela Hondras-McCarthy here for a little Big Fun Friday. Tuesday, I'll probably end up annoying you all on my own. But thank you for tuning in. We'll be back again. Enjoy this day. It's going to be beautiful out there today, gang. Until next time, I stay safe. I'll catch you on the other side.